Good? Okay. Hey, I'm Alex. I'm one of the co-founders of Faraway. That's my co-founder right there, so say hi. I'm going to be talking a lot about interoperability, why it matters, why it's not just another buzzword, and then I'm going to announce something at the very end, but I'll leave it for the very end. So before I get into interoperability, why it matters, what it means, some of you probably don't know what Faraway is, so I'm going to start there. At Faraway, we're building this big, integrated, interoperable ecosystem of games, developer tools, creator tools, commerce tools, and NFT collections. I hope some of you have played at least some of these games. And these games include first-party games, second-party games, which we make with partners, and then third-party games that are built on our publishing platform. So everything from Heavy Metal, Legends of the Mara, Dookey Dash with Yuga, Serum City with Novel Labs, and then a bunch of other titles that we're publishing, like Shatterline, Rebel Skies, and then Villains, Robot Battle Royale. Everything, I think the major way that these games are getting the initial player bases, especially the Web3 player bases into them, is by giving utility to important interoperable collections. So I'm going to just touch on these collections, and then we'll go into why these communities are doing this. So Heavy Metals, and then Legends of the Mara assets, which include Codas, Kodamaras, Maras, are what we consider to be our premier interoperable NFTs. And different games give utility to these NFTs in order to attract players to those games. But when we were building all of these games, we realized that in order to actually have an ecosystem that was really, really easy for anybody to enter, we needed to build a lot of tools. So what we ended up doing is we have a lot of games, and then we ended up building a bunch of creator tools, commerce tools, and developer tools for one reason, and to make it insanely easy for people to enter our ecosystem. So this is an example of our commerce suite. If you've played Dookey Dash and you've seen some weird vehicles or characters or stickers, that's built on our commerce suite. So we offer secondary marketplaces, UGC shops, and then this big creator suite to upload interoperable content. We have a multi-chain developer platform, again, aimed at making it insanely easy for any developer to start developing and deploying into our ecosystem. So we offer everything from login solutions, multi-chain inventory and indexing, all smart contracts behind traditional APIs, and a bunch more. And then one thing that Dennis and I learned when we were both at Scopely, so our background is we were in gaming for a while, and then we were at Glue and we were at Scopely before starting Faraway. We learned that it's extremely important to have the concept of a ecosystem level user. So what you don't want is you don't want to acquire the same user into every single one of your games every single time. You will want to acquire them one time into your ecosystem and then continue to cross-promote them into all of the games that are in your ecosystem. So we have the concept of a Faraway ID, which is where any player can go, they can see all of their assets, and most importantly, they can see all of the different places their assets have utility. So if you go to your Faraway ID and you say, I'm going to look at this Heavy Metal NFT, you're going to see immediately, here are all the different games that this NFT can be used in. So now the crux of the conversation is what we call the interoperability effect. So interoperability isn't a Web3 thing. It's a Web2 thing, except in Web2, you just call it cross-promotion. Cross-promotion, as it stands today, sort of sucks, right? If you look at even the best studios in free-to-play, whether it's Playrix, whether it's Supercell, their idea of cross-promotion is simply advertising. You say, hey, you're playing this one game. We have a bunch of other games that you might be interested. Look at this list. But if you're looking at this from a player perspective, why should you all of a sudden download this new game? And that's why the cross-promotion rates in traditional gaming are extremely low. Sometimes you have a studio like Epic, for example, which does something very interesting, right? Where they actually make a concerted effort to make 2 of their games interoperable. You saw this with the big cross event between Fortnite and Rocket League, where there were items that were produced in Rocket League that were available in Fortnite and vice versa. Obviously extremely interesting. You had a huge now synergy between those 2 products, but unfortunately, this was extremely difficult to pull off. It was super high touch. It was very permissioned and not really scalable. Now, here's what I think interoperability looks like today, or what it will look like in the future, where it's more permissionless and it is scalable. So this is our heavy metal collection. As you can see, heavy metals are usable in Shatterline, in Dookey Dash, in Serum City. They're usable in games that are outside of our ecosystem entirely, like Nifty Island. They're usable in Rebel Skies. And sort of the list keeps going on and on. So if you think about interoperability and cross-promotion from a player perspective, like a person who is holding a heavy metal NFT has a real reason to actually try another game because there's actually value for them in trying it. When they use a heavy metal tee in Dookey Dash, they get a bonus. When they use a heavy metal tee in Shatterline, they now get a companion that follows them around and helps them in battle. So we believe that interoperability is going to completely break user acquisition from a gaming perspective. So this is what it looks like in numbers. So the typical cross-promotion rate for a casual mobile game is around 10%. That's because the cross-promotion in typical mobile games, it's pretty bad, right? You saw it just looks like advertising. There's nothing compelling from a user perspective. But for us, what we're doing with interoperability and cross-promotion, like I said, is saying, you have this asset, we're going to give you benefits in other games, and now a user or player has the real reason to go and play another game, like at least test it out. So what we're seeing in some of our games is cross-promotion rates north of 80%. So when you have a cross-promotion rate north of 80%, now you start thinking of user acquisition in a completely different way, because now, instead of having a single product, you have a very sticky ecosystem. So now as an exercise, let's look at 3 games. These are all, by definition, terrible games, right? They are low CPI games, which is great, but they have low LTVs. None of these games can scale from a traditional game marketing or user acquisition sense. But now if you look at these games from an ecosystem level, you have game 1, which is a low CPI game. I can acquire a ton of players into that game, and I can continue to compound their LTV by cross-promoting them into different games in your ecosystem. So now if you look at a user's CPI and LTV on an ecosystem level, you now have an ecosystem that has a low CPI and a high LTV. And if you've been in gaming or if you've been in consumer products long enough, you know that that is basically the winning combination. What this looks like in our ecosystem is all we need is one product. That product needs to be really, really good at acquiring users very cheaply. And it needs to be able to acquire users at scale. And because we're seeing such stickiness in our ecosystem, we can confidently say that by acquiring this user and keeping them in our ecosystem, we can continue to stack their LTV by moving them through the constant, and growing number of products that we have, whether it's Dookey Dash, Serum City, our shop, Shatterline, and more. So if you've been in gaming, you would know that this is the absolute game-breaking thing when it comes to thinking about how you acquire users and how you can continue stacking LTV. So now I'll just quickly run through here some upcoming games that we have and what they're doing as far as giving utility to these interoperable assets. We have Rebel Skies, which is by an external studio. They are getting the initial Web3 player base into the game by giving utility to heavy metals. They give them boosts, they give them automatically unlocked characters, and a whole lot more. And Shatterline You get this heavy metal following you around in battle. You get different benefits. And these heavy metals, depending on the heavy metal you have in your wallet and its type, you get different mechs that are following you around and just helping you out. So these are actually meaningful when it comes to making your gameplay more enjoyable. And then in villains, you have this studio, which is giving utility to both heavy metals and Kodamaras in order to get both of those communities in the game day one. So this is an example of studios, instead of just advertising, they are going directly to the player, to their holdings, and saying, we want you in our game, and in order to get you into our game, we're going to provide value. So looking ahead. There we go. So what we have today is we consider us to at least have the start of a pretty sticky ecosystem. And in order to really scale that ecosystem, we need more games, which comes into our publishing strategy, and we need better infrastructure. So this leads to the next thing. As part of that better infrastructure, we are going to be partnering with the F Foundation to adopt the F chain across all of our different products, whether they are games, developer tools, commerce tools, or creator tools. So why do we need, thank you. It's a big deal, so yeah, appreciate it. So why are we doing this now? Why are we adopting a chain across all of our different products? And the reason is because we really need to, in order to make it a better experience for developers, for creators, and for players. If you look at Rebel Skies, the F chain will power the wagering system in that game, because a wagering system needs a secure on-chain ledger. It'll make the crafting economy in Serum City cheaper, better, faster, more dependable for players. It'll solve the issue that we're having in Dookey Dash right now, where a creator is selling their item for $1, but it costs $2 in gas to mint. That's not fun for anybody, and it's a complete waste of money for everybody. And of course, there will be now benefits that are associated with tokens that I think will populate our ecosystem. We go back one more. There we go. Almost. There we go. Nope. Do I post it here? There we go. Okay, we're there. So powering the F chain, it'll obviously be built on the AVAX 9000, like AC. Oh, not again. There we go. Okay, so powering the F chain, it'll be built on the new AVAX 9000 ACP 77 upgrade. So let's give it up for that big upgrade that is making everything possible. And obviously, shout out to the AVAX team for really walking us through this. So the F chain will be powered by these big decentralized set of community-run validators. And yeah, this will be, I think, a new paradigm for gaming. So incredibly excited about this. The F Foundation will be releasing comms in the near future. That's what they're telling us about how testnet, mainnet, tokens, and validator nodes are going to work. So everybody stay tuned for that. My understanding is comms will be released. But thank you guys for listening. And yeah, we're excited about the future here. Do we do any questions, or are we good? Any questions?
Yeah, we had a lot to digest in that, and it's awesome. Really excited for you, Alex.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm curious from your perspective, what about specifically creating a blockchain and using Avalanche 9000 is like the thing that you're like, oh yeah, screw Ronin, screw wherever else I could go. We need to build this ourselves. It has to be an L1. Avalanche 9000 is the way. Like, what's the differentiator for you?
I mean, not being dependent on a layer 2 or layer 1, right? Running your own validator nodes. I think it just creates a different mindset, right? It's like if a community is now running validator nodes, their investment into your ecosystem, into your product is that much more. So I think that's extremely powerful. And then as far as the reason to adopt the F-chain is it's because it's solving real problems that we're having today. A lot of our solutions today across our games, our platform tools, our developer tools, our creator tools, they will be made better, cheaper, faster, more dependable, more predictable by having the F-chain adopted throughout our ecosystem.
Thank you so much, Alex. I think everyone can take questions. You can find Alex and take his.
Yeah, you can find me, right over there.
Thank you so much. We're gonna have our lunch break now. So sorry, we don't have any more times for follow-up questions. So I'll see you back at 2 p.m. here. So we continue for the next stuff. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.